Hi, I'm Alan Morgan. I'm going to give a presentation on Bity-8 audio. Alan Morgan, SPED Talk. Woohoo, I'm excited. Prepare to be amazed. This is a whiteboard presentation. Bity-8, what is it? It's a fantasy console, kind of like the Super Nintendo. Except not really the Super Nintendo, because we made our own thing, and this is more like an emulator, so it runs on a computer or something. Bity-8 has a screen 192 pixel by 144. It has a controller with 8 controls, up, down, left, right, plus, minus, OX. And it has a 16 color palette that can be used to draw on the screen. So what about audio? That's what this presentation is on. The audio specification for Bity-8 goes as follows. There are 4 default instruments in Bity-8 and 4 custom instruments that the game developer can put into their cartridge. There are 128 samples per instrument, and there are 256 possible values per sample, so 1 byte. And there can be 4 sounds playing at once, 4 channels. What does that all mean? Well, it's okay, I'll explain it in a second. But first, how does sound work in general? That's a good question. Sound is just a wave, kind of like light's a wave. And there are 2 important things to know about the wave. It has an amplitude, how high it can get, and a period, that's when it starts to repeat itself. Up, down, it repeats itself there. Again. So when you change the amplitude of a wave, how high it can get, it gets louder. When you make it smaller, it gets softer. How do notes work? I have purple in the presentation now, if you didn't notice. How do they work? Well, it's all about frequency. Let's look at an example. Here are 2 waves, but each one has a different frequency. This is the same amount of time for each wave, but the top one only repeats itself 2 times. The bottom one repeats itself 3 times. So A or B, which one would sound higher as a note on a piano? The answer is B. So the one that repeats itself more, the one that has a higher frequency, is a higher note on a piano. Maybe not these notes, but that's the idea. So far we've only looked at sine waves. Well, what about non-sine waves? There are 4 basic waves in Bity-8. And these are kind of like instruments. So each wave would be an instrument. And specifically, 1 period would be the instrument. Square wave just goes up and down like a sine, S-I-G-N function. Triangle wave could be made with an absolute value function. Sawtooth wave could be made with a modulus function. And a noise wave. The noise wave is kind of like having each one of these dots just a random value. The noise wave never repeats itself. A brief note about noise. Noise can't really have a frequency. So frequency is right there. You can't really have a frequency on noise, which means you can't really have a note on a piano with noise. Why? Because it never repeats itself. How could I have a note on the piano if this never repeats itself? All the notes would sound the same with noise. So that was interesting. There are 128 samples per period. Here's a quick example. In Bity-8, the way that we created our sounds is 1 period, 1 instrument would have 128 green lines here. So 64 on this side, 64 on that side for the square wave. We said that the highest value is 255, middle is 127, lowest is 1, and the reason 0 is not the lowest is because we reserved that to be random so we could generate noise. Here's a quick example with only 8 samples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here are the values for each sample. So there's a 1 there, 63 there, and so on. And in general, when we have an instrument in Bity-8, it would look like this, but instead of 8, it would have 128 samples. Putting it all together, there are 4 channels in Bity-8. We can play 4 sounds at the same time. Quick example, triangle, square, sawtooth, noise, triangle, noise, square, square, but it's changing notes there. And just pretend all of these can be playing at the same time. And that's something that's possible in Bity-8. With Bity-8, you can make cool sounds. And that's my presentation. Congrats, you survived Alan Morgan's Bity-8 audio SPED talk. Have a nice day.